Welcome back to the kitchen, guys. We have an extremely delicious recipe in store. One of my favorite kinds, just a big loaf of bread, right? Because you could meal prep it, you could freeze it, you could toast it, you could dip it, you could top it, anything you want. We're gonna be making a garlic and Asiago bread, and it's gonna be super delicious and dense, and it toasts up beautifully, and it's also great for serving with like an olive oil dipping sauce. We're gonna start with the dry ingredients and get those mixed in a bowl. So the first thing we're gonna add to our bowl is almond flour. We're gonna do 1 1/4 cup. To this, we're gonna add 1/4 cup of coconut flour. So I love mixing coconut flour and almond flour. I know it feels like, it's extra work because you have 2 flours, but it always creates such a better consistency of any baked good or a baked loaf. So I highly recommend you stick to this ratio we got here. So that's 1/4 cup, 3 tablespoons of ground flax seeds, and you can use golden, which we have here, or you can use just the normal standard brown ones. Either way, it adds a nice toasty flavor. The golden flax seeds, in my opinion, do taste a little bit better though, so we like to use it when we can. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon, very small, of psyllium husk powder. And psyllium husk does a great job in binding, so you don't need a ton of it, but it'll make all the difference. Sprinkle that in. We're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So now we're just gonna give this a quick mix and then we'll set it aside and get the wet going. So in this bowl, a large bowl, because we're gonna be adding the dry to the wet, I have 1/4 cup of butter that I'm gonna quickly melt down in the microwave. And then to the melted butter, we're gonna add the rest of our ingredients. We're gonna do 1/3 cup of water, 3 large eggs. Then we're gonna do 2 more ingredients. We're gonna do 5 drops of liquid stevia and just a 1/4 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. And from baking lots of breads, these are the 2 tricks we found that really cut through that eggy taste. So if you're not a fan of the eggy taste in low carb keto breads, try one of these 2 or both, and that'll omit that eggy taste. So just 5 drops, that'll do the trick, and it won't make it sweet. And then just a little bit of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna give this a whisk. And then in 2 batches, we're gonna add in the dry ingredients as we whisk. Let's get 1/2 of that in. Perfect. We're gonna let that sit for just a minute as it thickens up from the psyllium husk, and we are going to slice up some garlic. And as it sits, the coconut flour and the psyllium husk, they'll really help to thicken up the bread batter so it's not as thin as it was when you were mixing it. It'll be slightly thicker when we fold in the cheese and the garlic. Baby strength! Aren't we supposed to be able to lift cars? I have 5 pretty big pieces of garlic here that I'm gonna be using for this bread loaf. You can go a lot more if you want. You can go a lot less. You can optionally toast these before you even add them into the loaf, or you can just slice them and add them in and they will bake with the rest of the ingredients. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go pretty big slices. I don't wanna mince it up. I wanna see those beautiful pieces of garlic. Okay, that looks good to me. Now I'm gonna add this garlic to the batter along with our cheese. So we have 1/2 cup of shredded Asiago cheese that we shredded ourselves. So we just bought a big block of it, shredded it up, and we are just gonna fold all of this in. So you can now see that the bread batter itself is a lot thicker than it was when we first were mixing it. You look at all the beautiful chunks of garlic. That's what you want to see. So here we have a standard 8.5 by 4.5 loaf pan. So we're gonna grease this up with some coconut oil, but you could also line it with some parchment paper. That might be easy to pull it out. Should we do that?
Yeah.
You never regret using parchment paper. You usually do regret just using spray.
You do.
And you can also give it a spray so the parchment paper will stay down. That's what we're gonna do. Perfect. Okay, so now we are just going to add our batter right into the loaf pan. Spread it out. Okay, that looks good. Now we're gonna pop this in the oven at 375 for 40 to 50 minutes. It'll all vary depending on your oven. So we're gonna check on it pretty early because the edges will brown, and then you can test it with the toothpick. If you insert a toothpick and it comes out wet, then you know it needs another 5 to 10 minutes. So I would just gauge it on that. So we'll be back shortly to check on it. All right, guys, it's been 35 minutes and we just took a quick check and we did the toothpick test and it came out clean. So again, I said 40 to 50, but check on it pretty early depending on your oven. I think we're good to go. Let's pull this puppy out. Oh my God, that looks beautiful. You can see the garlic. You could smell the garlic. So we're gonna let that cool for a bit before we give it a try. This looks phenomenal. Check that out. It's nice and browned. You can see the garlic. It roasted for sure. And like I said, this was in the oven for 35 minutes, so it comes right out with the parchment paper. Perfect. And that looks so good, so dense. And if there's something to know about me that's really important, it's that I love the end pieces. I guess I'll cut a couple slices, but do you hear that? Oh, baby. And again, this toasts up great. Look at those garlic chunks. Let's cut another slice for you. Probably want to let it cool, but you know us. So this is looking great. I'm going to take the end piece, of course. Asiago is very unique. Never really tried it in anything except a bread. Have you, Matt?
Yeah, Panera bagels all the time.
Yeah, but except in bread.
Oh.
Have you ever eaten it just like on...
I put it on like pasta and stuff before.
Okay. It's like the perfect flavor profile for a baked good, for a bread. And then that garlic, like the combination, you get a little spice of the garlic. And the golden flaxseed meal really makes a difference. Nice and toasty. Perfect for dipping bread, but even better for toasting up, in my opinion, and then lathering with some butter. Oh man, like some flavored butter, additional garlic butter, rosemary butter. That would be so good with this. Linked below is the recipe and the instructions, step by step how to make this, and all the ingredients you're gonna need to make this delicious keto, garlic, and Asiago bread.